Welcome back to this special Halloween edition of Portland Today. Look at Tim Pate go. He's just about 15 minutes in. He was telling me earlier, Ashley, he's already carved 40 of these giant pumpkins this week alone. We're going to see what he comes up with within this hour.
Well, we have our next guest right here. Kyla is fascinated with the pumpkin carving going on. You know, we want to talk about how to keep your pets safe and try to help them be less overwhelmed and stressed out during Halloween, because it really can happen to your pets. So we have Dr. Christy Michael, lead veterinarian with Dove Lewis, and Kyla here, who is a ferocious lion, it looks like.
Or a cool dude.
Or a really cool
Has a
lion.
very big heart.
Well, doctor, let's start off with just talking about some of the basics. You know, this is what comes to mind as a pet owner, is keeping the chocolate away. So what do people need to know about all the candy?
Chocolate is definitely a danger, but the fact is that it's not just the chocolate that's the danger. It's all the wrappers. So you've got your chocolate wrappers.
Because they'll eat it wrapper and all.
Skittles bags. You've got your, yeah, see? You've got your pumpkin containers, your trick-or-treat containers. They'll eat any of those things. And while chocolate itself is toxic, and some of the other candies that we can give are toxic to dogs anyway. They're not toxic to your kids, let's hope. But those plastic materials can get caught up in their gastrointestinal tract and can cause intestinal obstruction. They can also be scared if your dog's not used to seeing small people running around with crazy
Do you
costumes.
at Dove Lewis see a bump at Halloween in terms of pets brought in?
We often see a little bit of extra strays that come in on all holidays like this. So fireworks holidays, noise holidays, so there's a lot of noisy costumes and people who might have noisy accessories as part of their costumes, and so any of those will get extra strays that come in.
Now back to the candy. If I just think this is a big one. If your dog does eat chocolate, how do you know when to bring your animal into the vet?
Chocolate is something that is toxic to a degree, so that means that it depends on how much they eat. So if you ever are worried and they've eaten some, you should just call the hospital and check and see. And we have sliding scales that can help you to decide.
Based on weight and how much they ate.
Based on how much they weigh. Now, if they're ever having any signs like vomiting or diarrhea or anything like that, then you should just take them right on into the doctor and don't worry about calling.
And sometimes it's hard to determine how much they've eaten.
It can
if you
be.
come back, the bowl is empty, you think how many were left and how many were given out, and so always err on the cautious side, I would think.
Of caution, and it's just better to treat them and stop them from getting sick than to wait for them to get sick and have to treat them.
You were talking about, you know, the loud noises, kids in costumes that can kind of frighten animals, but do you see a lot of people who bring their animals out trick-or-treating? I think that might be a bad idea.
Yeah, it is something that can be done, but I would just really caution people to be very careful if you're going to do it. Even if you prepare them for the sounds and sights that they're going to see with your family on a trick-or-treating outing, you never can tell what you're going to run into on the street. If you do decide to take them out, make sure that you have really good control over them at all times. If they seem to be getting overwhelmed, take them home. Make sure they have identification on them. They have tags. They're microchipped so that if something happens and you do get separated, they can find their way back home.
Yeah, some people might build their entire costume around having that dog
That's
alongside. What about the pets in the costume? I mean, my goodness, what wonderful behavior we have here today. But how do you tell, or how do you coax your animal into a costume, or should you even go there?
I think that putting them into a costume is the same as any other training. So you'll find that a lot of training these days is treat related, and so to train our pets to do things, we'll give them treats. And so if you want to get your pet into an outfit, then what you'll want to do is you'll want to use treats to train them to do that. And I do recommend that you do spend some time training them up to that before today, so it might be a little late warning, but you would have wanted to spend a few days getting them comfortable.
Start now for next year?
Start now for next year.
Well,
if they're not comfortable.
It didn't work in mine.
Oh, really?
My dad was not happy about it, so I did not do it again.
Yeah, no, not all dogs are willing to walk in clothing.
Yeah.
Get paralyzed. Yeah, train them, and if they're not comfortable, don't give it a try. If they're too interested in their costumes, they could eat parts of the costume, which could also cause problems. So other things to avoid.
And don't you love that your regular work attire doubles as a costume for today?
Also fully dressed as a veterinarian today.
Thanks so much for coming in and for all the great work you do at Dove Lewis. Really good to have you.
Thanks very much.
As we continue